The housing debacle. Who's to blame? Well, everybody's to blame. The homeowners that purchased homes they couldn't afford, the ones that lied on their applications, those that took money out when they bought their home to buy new SUVs or new TVs, the banks, Wall Street, and Congress, and the Senate, and the President. Everybody's to blame. After 34 years in the industry, let me share some of my experiences. First, let's talk about the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Act. That's the act that really started things going about 15 years ago, requiring banks to make subprime low-income loans. I don't have a problem with low-income loans. Working for some of the largest mortgage and banks in the country over those years, we would go out and acquire additional companies. The minute we announced that we were acquiring a large company or a bank, what would happen? First of all, Acorn and all the community organizations would come to this bank and say, we won't allow you to get this deal done unless you commit $100 million, $50 million, $150 million in Community Redevelopment Act loans. Is this bribery? Is this extortion? I think so. Would we have loaned in those neighborhoods anyway? I believe so. But we were forced, and the banks were forced, to provide this money and make these loans, and the government would look out for it. During the Clinton administration, the government was forcing the banks to have quarterly reports that showed the number of minority loans that were provided to people. So that's how it started. And then people like Chris Dodd, Barney Frank.
And I've never been so humiliated in all my life.
Schumer, Durbin, a lot of the Democrats on the Hill kept pushing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to change their guidelines. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac did change their guidelines. They loosened them up, and suddenly there was a large problem that created the housing debacle that we have today. So why haven't we heard more about it? Because the Democrats don't want to have hearings on Capitol Hill. We'll have hearings with the WWE.
I will do what's right for the business every time.
We'll have hearings on baseball and steroids. And we'll have hearings on whether the BCS is fair. That's what's important to this country today. We'll have all these hearings that don't mean anything so they can stand up there and pontificate and get on the news. Last fall, Henry Waxman, Congressman, chairman of the House Oversight Committee, in his committee hearings, he had Larry Summers, Ben Bernanke, and Greenspan all on the panel, talking about what happened, how did this happen. There was a Republican congressman on the committee who asked, why shouldn't we have hearings on Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae? Congressman Waxman said, that's really not a big part of the issue. The other congressman, the Republican congressman, said, why don't we just ask our panel? Greenspan, Summers, and Bernanke, all three said Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac failure was a significant factor in the housing crisis we have today. So Waxman, being surprised, said, well, okay, well, next year, when the Congress comes back after the elections, we'll have hearings on Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Congressman Waxman, I'm still waiting. When are we going to have those hearings? We'll never see them. Why? If it was the Republicans involved in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac like the Democrats had their fingers into it, we would have had hearings 6 months ago. Stand up and take responsibility, and that's all I'm saying is we ought to take responsibility for this. And so now it's May of 2009, and Fannie Mae has come back to Congress and asked for another $50 billion to stay afloat. When's it going to end? Well, it's not going to end before HUD, FHA, is the next one to blow up. because they're taking loans back on refinances and guaranteeing loans, and they're going to end up the same as Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Within a year, you'll probably hear on the news that HUD, FHA, needs an additional $50 billion to stay afloat.